or career growth?
Mm-hmm. When we were first talking about this panel, I got really, really excited because I think a lot of times people see you in positions and they're like, oh, she's in, you're in what people may covet like a great role. And often it's not really talked about all the, mistakes or the pivots you made to get to, where you are right now. For me, it was really, I made a decision early on. My undergraduate degree was in broadcast television. And I had every ambition to be like the next Katie Couric. In high school, I worked at a TV station. In college, I hosted a talk show that was on, regional ABC affiliate. And so I really thought, one day I'm going to be like on the Today Show. But, first job out of college, I'm working on a show called BET Tonight with Tavis Smiley. And I realized I hated working in the news. Like I covered the Hill. I would go to Capitol Hill. I would, Clinton was president at the time. And I hated it. It was like doom and gloom every day. You're working the news desk, it was doom and gloom. And so I learned very early in my career to pivot. And I quickly decided that I wanted to do something that I thought was as exciting, but not, doom and gloom every morning. And I pivoted to marketing. And so owning my career for me has really been a sequence, so to speak, of pivots throughout, my career. And, just to elaborate, like I said, my undergraduate degree was in television. I then decided I wanted to pivot to marketing. So then I went to grad school at NYU and studied media and marketing with emphasis in research. I, took marketing roles, and then opportunity was presented to me at a company called Scholastic to oversee research, which I had not done previously. But I took the leap and to do something that was not in my comfort zone. And what that one pivot and decision allowed me to do was it expanded my scope of understanding. And so I became kind of like when they say like you're a jack of all trades kind of thing. I started to understand the importance of measurement and how, growth markets worked and how you apply that to the creative side and connecting those dots and working with sales and doing the kind of like the bottom up heavy lift of marketing that a lot of people don't talk about because it's not sexy. So for me, owning my career was really about making decisions and not being afraid to pivot along the way.
MJ, I work on an internal startup, which means we pivot, but it's painful. Like when we pivot our idea, it is painful because it requires, saying goodbye to something and venturing down, a new path. I'm curious, when you made that pivot to work with Scholastic, take on research, taking on a more analytical role, can you just sort of take us there? Like, how did you make that decision?
I find like oftentimes for me, I learned early on that, the environment that I'm in, the environment that allows me to thrive was important to me. And so I was actually in a role, at a big brand. I was the only person of color in the entire org, and I was miserable. And so, what I've learned is in misery, you share because only people can help you if you share. Please, everyone watching, don't hold that to yourself. Like share and let people know because that's where opportunities present themselves. And I was sharing that, I was dying a slow death at this brand, which, a year before, if you had asked me, like, if I was at this brand, would I believe it? I couldn't even believe that I was hired because this was a brand that didn't even hire people that looked like me. And so, I shared that I was dying a slow death. And at that time, headhunters were really big. And I was introduced to several headhunters, and then this opportunity presented itself. And it was scary because some of my peers were like, what are you thinking about going to Scholastic? Like, it wasn't sexy. It was just kind of like, I had left a company prior to the role I was in by two young guys who had started Vibe magazine with Quincy Jones. I moved to New York to work with them on the startup. And so, we were doing big events. Like at, 22, I was going to Portland to pitch to Nike, and we were doing all these things. These guys were like 35, 36 years old, running a company. And so to kind of have this career where you're doing all these fun and what people perceive to be like glamorous type of activations, and then you go to a brand like Scholastic, people are like, you're taking a step back. But, talking to the various people in the company, I think is important when you're researching companies that you're thinking about, that you talk to various people at the company